Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. I'm your host, Kyptan, and with me today are Little Red Book,
Hello?
Solution,
Hello, everybody.
and our special guest, Rob from Inking Out Loud.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going?
Great to have you.
That's great to be here, man.
Today we will be covering The Martian by Andy Weir. We will be covering both the film and the book. But to start everything off, let's give a little bit of an impression about how we found the book. Red, why don't you start?
So, I'm not a big hard sci-fi person, mostly because it makes me feel stupid because I don't know a lot about science, but this book did a really good job of not doing that. There was a couple parts that kind of blah 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 to me a little bit. But, I understand enough of the basics and the book explained it well enough that I felt like I knew what was going on. So I really appreciated that. It's also really funny, which I was not expecting. The main character's voice is hilarious. So I would say it's probably a 4-star for me. That's more taste related. I think probably if I were to go just from good writing, it'd probably be 4.5.
Okay.
Nice.
Rob, would you like to go? Give
Yeah,
your
sorry, can
general
you
impressions?
repeat the question actually one more time? Because my headset cut out right when you said
Oh,
that.
okay.
Actually,
Sure.
they're wireless, so they get interference. Sorry, go ahead.
What's your general impression of the book? Did you like it? Did you not? And what would you rate it out of 5 stars?
I love this book. I have reread this book no less than 10 times. And that's only in a period of like 2 years. Most of them have been through audiobook just because I do a lot of welding and I have the opportunity to listen to headphones while I do that. And so I can just pop a book on and just lose myself in the flow of conversation for hours at a time, sometimes 10, 12 hours a day. And so this is a kind of book I can knock out in a single day over audiobook if I get like a really, really good pace going. I love this book. I've been through it so many times. The hard science is something that I really, really love now, especially now that I've started taking a lot more science courses. I'm switching up my careers at the moment. And so I've started taking a few high school courses that I didn't get when I was in high school. I've started taking chemistry. I've started taking biology at the highest level I could find there. And all of this it's coming together. So, I mean, the voice of Mark Watney as Little Red Book, you said he's a gem. And it was just a whole load of fun. And I actually have since gone through and read Andy Weir's other novel, the most recent one, Project Hail Mary, and it is just as fun, just as entertaining. And so, I mean, as far as a rating for this book here, I'll give this one 4.7 stars because I love it.
Lady Sweden actually was like, "Why aren't you doing Hail Mary?" I was like, "I don't know. This is what Rob wanted to do." You're
Yeah,
gonna
I
have to
hadn't
go
read
yell at
Project Hail
him.
Mary yet at that point, but you know what?
Yeah.
If I had at that point, I think I would have chosen that one, to be honest with you. But still, both of them, I give like 4.7, 4.7. Both are phenomenal books, and so I'm really glad to finally get a chance to talk to you guys about this because I've been trying to get Drew on Inking Out Loud to cover this for years, and we can just never quite fit it in there. So thank you guys for giving me the opportunity and the excuse to talk about this one.
Maybe listening to this will convince him to read Hail Mary.
Oh, he's going
And
to.
you guys can do it for IOL. Who knows?
Oh, he's going to. He doesn't have a choice. He doesn't know that yet, but he's going to.
Okay.
Hmm.
Soul.
I love this book. It's great. I don't read it very often. I read it once when it came out, and then I did not read it again because the movie came out, and the movie is one of my favorite movies. So instead of reading the book, I usually just watch the movie every 6 months to every year or so since it came out. I would just watch the movie, get the storyline into my brain again.
It's a good way to do
But
it because it's very true.
yeah, it's actually a good adaptation, but we'll save that for later. Yeah, I would give this one. For me, enjoyment plays a big factor, so I can forgive a lot of flaws. So to me, this is one of those 5 stars on Goodreads. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Like there's some stuff that could be wrong with it, but for me, it's a 5 star. So that's what I really like about this book. It's just so much fun.
For myself, I really enjoyed this story. I have a connection with this kind of story. Is it's very like Lost on a Mountain in Maine, but I shy away from giving it 5 stars because there's only really one main character. The side characters are underdeveloped or sometimes not even developed at all.
Really? Is there anybody in particular you're thinking of? Any character?
The first 2 characters that we get in like an interlude section, they're not even introduced. They just have names and then they're gone.
You're talking about the engineers who are arguing back and forth?
Yeah.
I love those
Oh,
guys, but yeah, you're right. I couldn't even name them at this point. I've been through the book like 10 times. I can't even name them, but I love the way they argue for sure. I think this is just kind of like from Venkat Kapoor's point of view. These guys are kind of like grunts to him, and they're like below
yeah.
memorizing their names.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to say one of them is named Marty. but I'm not sure.
It doesn't ring any bells for me, but yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
But for those reasons, I can't really put this in the same Goodreads category of 5 stars as many of my favorite books. But if on Storygraph lets me put 4.5 stars, I'll do that, because I agree, Soul. It really was an enjoyable read, and although I might not come back to it very often, it remains enjoyable, even though I know exactly how everything goes. Time for a recap, I think.
Does that mean we're going into spoilers?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Oh,
We're going
100%.
to. We're going to go into spoiler territory. So if you haven't read the book or seen the movie, then bow out now, and we'll see you on the other side when you finally get around to it. Rob, take us away.
All right. So we open in the near future as mankind has managed to plant not one, not two, but 3 separate teams of astronauts on Mars, not all at the same time, of course, to begin our first in-person visits to another planet. Astronaut Mark Watney is the 5th of 6 crew members, and he is the Ares 3 mission specialist for mechanical engineering, and luckily for him, botany, because the Martian tells the tale of a man who is stranded, he's alone, he's seemingly without hope, yet he's struggling to maintain his health and his sanity on this hyper-arid wasteland that is another planet. Through a series of log entries and transcribed audio logs, actually, we follow the charismatic and brilliant mind of Mark Watney as he overcomes obstacle after obstacle after obstacle after his crew thinks him dead and they're forced to abandon mission in this violent dust storm. He does everything from converting rocket fuel to water to retrieving deadly radioisotope thermoelectric generators, even resorting to holiday potatoes and using human waste as fertilizer to begin his own crops. Mark refuses to let Mars be the end of him. Meanwhile, back on Earth, analyst Mindy Park is the one to discover, through satellite imagery, of course, that Mark is still alive. We get to witness the drama unfold through various viewpoints, including Venkat Kapoor, who is the director of Mars missions. We get Teddy Sanders, who is the director, administrator of NASA. We go through various engineers, various scientists, even Mark's fellow crew aboard the return vessel Hermes. Multiple missions across multiple borders, agencies, institutions, they're all coming together in this common struggle to bring this man home. But life on Mars, as it turns out, is not easy. It involves a lot of brushing sand, a lot of mixing poop, a lot of flying potatoes, and snuggling up to vast amounts of deadly ionizing radiation for body heat. While Mark battles for his life against rupturing airlocks, zappy dust that destroys his communications, even getting ambushed by a continent-sized dust storm somehow, plans on Earth to supply him are going just as poorly, as it turns out. This Herculean team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory pulls together a mission in record time to resupply Mark, only for their history-making resupply to explode on launch. And all seems lost at this point, and Mark decides maybe it's time to come to terms, with his own ending. But the Chinese National Space Administration offers to buy the United States and the people of Earth one more chance to save Mark Watney. Astrodynamicist Rich Purnell, however, he devises a newer, bolder plan to return all 5 of the original Ares 3 crew to Mars to retrieve Watney 2 years earlier than thought otherwise possible. But it's got a catch. He needs to use that same booster. Sanders, the director, forbids informing the Ares 3 crew that such a course of actions is even possible, but flight director Mitch Henderson decides to put his job on the line to tell Hermes, hey, you know that guy you left behind on Mars and you think he's dead? We actually devised a super dangerous plan to save him, and the higher-ups don't want me to tell you that. So here's a bunch of random course projections that you can choose to follow or not to follow, your call. So astronauts, being astronauts, of course, they opt to force NASA's hand to use that Chinese booster to resupply them as they become the first humans ever to return to Mars. And through sudden and devastating problems of their own, including breaching their own atmosphere and venting to produce reverse thrust and extended EVA retrieval, Ares 3 reclaims their lost member at last, and humanity celebrates their first international victory, as Mark Watney, just a man, is left to contemplate his role in it. And that is Andy Weir's The Martian.
And Sean Bean doesn't die in the movie, guys.
And it's the first movie I've ever seen where Sean Bean doesn't die.
Allegedly, Mitch Henderson sent the Rich Purnell maneuver.
Allegedly. He said
Allegedly. Rich Purnell is a steel eye.
Yes, go ahead, Little Red Book. I know you're going to say.
In the movie, he pretty much admits it. He does not admit it in the book. And he said he'd resign once Mark Watney got back. I mean, that was
We're talking about the book here. We
Yeah,
can
we'll
talk
get
about
in the movie later.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just
we'll get in the movie
saying.
later.
I'm just
That'll be a big
saying.
part of it.
Movie is so worth mentioning that we're gonna talk the crap out of that one. But yeah, 100%.
And Drew, Red's fine. You don't have to say my whole name.
Mm.
Red's fine. Or you can call me. Yeah.
You can call her Lurb too. That works.
Lurb?
Yeah,
No,
Like
don't
Lurb?
call me.
Yeah.
Do not call me Lurb.
We all like Lurb, so we'll go with
No.
Lurb for the episode.
No. Fudge. Did you like that? Stop.
I did. I appreciate that. And you do too, because you're editing.
Hey, I'm a
Yes.
guest here. House rules.
Okay. So there's a lot of steps on the way for Watney from initial injury to being rescued by the Hermes. Did anyone have a particular favorite hurdle that he had to overcome or section of his life? Because he really changed up how he was living his life multiple times throughout the course of this book. Did any one of those resonate most with you?
Guess
Red,
one
you
of
want
my
to start?
Yes, please, because I already started. My favorite part was when he had to figure out how to get back to the hab after the airlock blew out.
Ooh, the hamster ball?
The hamster ball, where he
Yeah.
rolls the ball across Mars, and then he gets back there. Well, first of all, there's this great moment where he's just like, screw this, except he doesn't say screw. And then he's like, okay, I'm done with my tantrum. Now I'm going to figure this out. And then he gets back and he finds all of his potatoes dead. And those poor potatoes, it was heartbreaking. And I'm not going to lie, it made me cry. Not that you guys are surprised about me crying about something in a book.
Especially
Yeah, I
potatoes.
can say I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know you have a soft spot for potatoes.
That's true. You can.
Potatoes are delicious. Don't diss potatoes.
I know.
Oh, I'm not.
They are the best vegetable.
They were the only multicellular thing that was alive on that planet other than Mark, and they're dead now.
It's so sad.
They were
they-
eaten constantly.
They had such a brief life on Mars too. They were only there for what, 3 months maybe?
Yeah, and then bye-bye Soul 900 plans.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was going so well.
Soul, did you have a favorite part?
Yes. All right. So while Lurb was talking, I was able to kind of narrow down. I think it's the fact that he has to go get help me out here. It's what, a radiation thing. What is the
RTG.
Radioisotope thermoelectric generator. It creates
Yes.
heat
There you
out
go.
of radioisotopes. Yeah,
Yes. The
And a
fact that he
little
went
bit
to
of
get this.
and power. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't use it for that really. It was like 100 watts or something like that. But
I
it
mean,
was
that
the heat.
extends his days quite a bit.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah.
And also,
the heat was a big thing.
It was cool. That's probably my favorite struggle. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get that, even though it's dangerous, because nobody's gonna stop me, and I think it's gonna help a lot. And I thought that was a fun moment, and really says a lot about what he's willing to do that NASA may not want him to.
And maybe wouldn't have even thought of.
Yeah.
I love RTGs. They're really cool pieces of technology.
Oh yeah.
One of them still powering Voyager way out beyond our
Oh
solar
my
system
god.
now.
It's only got a few years left maximum, and they expect it to last until what, 2025 maybe. It actually went offline for a little while. It just came back on,
Yep.
didn't it?
Yep, went offline, came back on, is redefining our understanding of the heliosphere. It's great. Rob, did you have a favorite part of Mark's travails?
See, this is difficult because I am such a science guy. I like so many of these parts made me go, oh. Like before, I like all these past rereads. I'm a big space guy. I love space. I love physics. I love astrophysics. I also like theoretical physics. That's entirely different. But it wasn't until recently, and this is an amusing coincidence for me that we're covering this one. I've decided, like I said at the top of the show, I'm changing careers. I've just taken and aced a couple of high school courses directly about this stuff. I took chemistry and I took biology at the highest levels I could find. And it's so amusing when he's got the problem of, okay, I need to make water. The problem is water. I have all of this soil, but every
Yeah.
single, every single cubic, or I should say square meter of soil needs 40 liters of water to be farmable. And he's thinking, how do I make water? Oh, I've got all of this hydrazine. And thank you, Martinez, for being such a great pilot because you saved so much of the jet fuel, or rocket fuel, I should say, to save my life. So I think it would be making water out of hydrazine. That's my favorite, of course, because it leads to such an incredibly funny oops moment, right? And it's one of our, I think it's our first our first big oops moment where we're like, listen, science is a fickle thing, and it's not going to come out on your end all the time there, Mark. But there are moments on this reread specifically, and only on this reread, now that I have the context, and I have the understanding, the foundations involved, where he's talking about, I can make like X liters of H2O for every liter of hydrazine. And I'm that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, pointing at the screen, going, oh, wait a minute. He's talking about mole ratios. Like, there must have been a
Yes, he
dozen
is.
little moments that
Yep.
made me giggle like an idiot on this reread that didn't before, because I actually understand the science involved now. So I'd say it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I want to say all of the, okay, I've got a science moment, and I'm going to science the crap out of this. And he does that.
That is a cop-out answer.
Okay, making water out of
It is,
hydrazine.
yeah.
I'll go with that one.
It really
Okay,
is.
we'll allow
Okay.
it. Yeah, we'll allow that one.
Where
The
he
excess
almost
water that
Fine.
the
kills
excess
himself.
oxygen that he's exhaling, in particular, out of the mask on his face. I would say that is
Cool.
that is a clever device there.
For me, it's when he reestablishes communication with NASA by going on a journey to collect Pathfinder.
Oh, so close! It almost made.
He does his first long-range mission with the RTG and the rover. He gets Pathfinder, he replaces the power supply, and it powers up and restores connection with mission control. That was my favorite bit by far.
And you're
Uh,
like, finally, because he's losing his mind a little bit.
Yep.
Just from lack of human connection, and seeing that restored. Oh, I think
Yeah, when
the
Sorry,
most
go ahead.
devastating part for me was when he accidentally blew out Pathfinder while he was drilling the holes.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
dear Lord, this
I
is
really-
terrible.
I love the
And
whole
then
lead
he-
up to that too. Yeah,
and then
it's
he
so good.
never looks at that drill the same way again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very powerful passage when Andy Weir as an author goes off on this whole side tangent saying the worst discoveries or the worst realizations in life are small ones. When you come home and you see 2 glasses of wine in the sink instead of 1. Like that whole little passage as he introduces this, it's giving you this feeling of dread as you go into it, like, oh no, what now? You know?
And he does a
Yeah.
similar thing right before the airlock breaks,
Yeah.
where he's like, oh, it expanded just a little bit, 4 millimeters. And I started going, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is bad.
Yeah, there's so many of those scenes when the author dips his pen into this truly omniscient third person. He's playing
yeah.
with time as he goes back to follow the manufacturing of the Hab canvas, where
Yeah.
it tears, you know,
Mhm.
and how it ends the potato farming on Mars. Even with the complications with the Iris probe launch, he's
Yeah,
zooming
Yep.
into the
Yep.
molecular
This-
perspective.
yeah, I like that a
as
lot.
The forces of the rocket launch, lateral vibration creates liquefaction and ultimately leads to catastrophe. So Weir he's always giving me this. I feel like he's giving me this fresh perspective, even though, yes, I'm obviously far more invested in Mark Watney and that we're getting the vast majority from the first person. We're still switching up to these alternate narrative styles, this third person limited and then totally omniscient for these extremely separated perspectives. I thought that was a deft touch.
You think that those parts where he goes into the omniscient third person are educational?
Yes.
Only in that they make me want to search a whole bunch of words that I wasn't familiar with before.
And do you think that the book as a whole is educational?
150%.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah, I would
so.
agree.
Okay. Then we have to get into the original inciting event here, which is a Martian dust storm, which had way more force than it should have.
If you say so, I will take
Okay.
your word for it.
Oh, is that not atmospherically likely to happen on Mars?
No.
Okay.
No, it's the one unscientific thing about this book and the adaptation.
For me, it
is
was
that
how
Martian
quickly it
dust
arrived.
storms
Okay, go
do
ahead.
not have that much force.
Okay, it
Okay.
was like supposed to be like 170 kilometer per hour winds, right, or something like that.
Yes. But Mars
Yeah.
has barely 1% the atmosphere of Earth.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, I have to say, in the fact that it managed to roll up on them so quickly when it's a continent wide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the most unscientific thing about it is that Mark is still alive. I'm sorry. He
Yeah,
should be
no,
dead.
that's fair.
I love
That's fair.
I
That's
love
fair.
it. The book wouldn't happen without Mark being alive, but I'm just saying he's dead. He's dead.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that the book portrays all of the circumstances that lead to him surviving fairly realistically. All of those things are technically possible.
Oh, 100%. I think she
Technically,
means him.
and not actually gonna happen.
Sure.
It's like a unicorn event is what
Well,
it
yeah, if we
is.
wanted to read about reality, we just read nonfiction, right?
Right.
That's the whole point, right? We read about the fantastical.
NASA plans for unicorn events, and we have things like Apollo 13, which show how even explosions
Okay,
inside
fine.
space capsules
I'm
can be recovered
okay,
from.
fine. Whatever. He's dead. Sorry.
No, I agree. He's not dead to begin with. The circumstances of him surviving, I'd say,
There's
plausible,
just
like,
100% plausible. Him
The
surviving to the
thing
end,
that
he's dead.
strands him there in the first place is the least likely thing to happen, because the winds just don't have
okay,
that much
fine.
strength.
Okay, well,
I'm
what
just
kind
saying
of
he's dead.
margin of error are we talking about here? Could 1% atmosphere of mostly CO2 get up to, say, 130, 150?
Oh, it can get up to like 175, but it'll feel like
Oh,
a
you mean
light
because of the density?
breeze.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
got you.
yeah, just a breeze, so it
Yep.
wouldn't actually threaten them for any of their. Okay,
Oh,
makes sense.
I'm angry now. You're totally right.
Yeah,
Like it'll barely move grains of sand on the Martian surface, which is why those craters show so little erosion. Like the Martian landscape erodes so slowly because only dust, like things that are smaller than
But
grains of sand,
the dust
are
is
actually
in
getting moved around.
0.38 G's though. It's
I'm
gonna be a
cutting
lot
all
lighter.
of this. This is getting really.
It's gonna be lifted a lot easier though by the
It
atmosphere.
is lifted a lot easier, but the atmosphere is just like
That's true.
barely there.
You're talking about a difference of 1 in 100, whereas 38% to 100 in terms of the G-force. Okay, all right. Sorry. This is what I love. I love this. I love going right into the science. You know,
He
this is
popped
like
a
the
bubble on me
Cosmere
now. Oh my
discussions
God.
about Sanderson's Cosmere for me in the Magic. This is
So
what I
much
do.
cutting.
Why do we have to cut any of that? No.
No, that was all good. You don't have to worry about it.
Nah, we not cutting.
Yeah,
The
we're
guest
gonna make your
rules.
job real easy, Lurb.
But
No
yeah,
cutting.
if we
Oh my God,
accept that
Soul,
maybe the
I'm
main
gonna.
communication dish was like massive, then maybe it could have, and super weak, massive and super weak, then maybe it could have flown off and hit him in the chest.
Oh, let's
He
talk
needs-
about the movie.
Oh no,
Okay.
The
definitely,
How-
definitely.
map wouldn't have tilted.
He needs an
Oh.
event. All right, even if it wasn't a dust storm, what event could he have as the catastrophe to basically separate Watney from the crew and let the crew leave? Because he needs the strand mark on Mars. So
Meteor
what
shower?
event? Like, and if
I
he
think
did
that's even
that,
less likely.
yeah, I feel like that's just
It's
like
even less likely. That a meteor shower landing on a planet?
that's just like
Uh,
Deus Ex Machina.
So
No.
Okay.
maybe
The
they're.
radar ray hitting him, that would absolutely fly, and it would have enough mass at that speed to eventually remove him. 100%.
Yeah.
The sand tipping the map, no. I get you there.
Yeah.
So maybe the Hab does the whole deflating thing or whatever.
Right.
I'm so
Oh, yeah.
smart. And he goes flying across, and then they can't find him, and they spend all this time, but they have to leave because the Hab isn't habitable anymore, and they're running out of food. That would be more realistic.
I mean, how far is he gonna go flying? Like,
I don't know. It was 40 meters, so not that far.
They could have put
Never
him next to a
mind, that doesn't
canyon,
work.
have him like slide down the canyon.
that would have been a weird landing site for an Ares mission.
I know.
Right on the edge of a canyon.
Right on.
They're like, we want to explore the canyon too, but then we also want everything over here. They just want to be right on the edge.
Martinez is good, but I don't know if NASA would trust him that much.
If he had the
Plus,
charisma of Michael Pena, I would trust him.
Yes, without a doubt.
and they would also have to have all the pre-supply stuff that's just dropped on the planet, so they would not do
Yes.
it near a canyon.
Yeah, that's there in like 2 years in advance. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. 5 of the pre-supplies went down the canyon, but we just sent 5 more. We're fine.
It's
Yeah,
not
it
gonna be
doesn't
too hard
cost
to
that
bring
much.
it up. It only weighs
Yeah.
1/3 of what it normally would.
Yeah, but Mars has some really deep canyons.
That's true. That is very true, actually. Makes the Grand Canyon look like a little side channel, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Valles Marineris is really deep. And talking about that, did anyone here not have a connection to Mars areology and remote sensing and Mars rover projects and things before reading this book or watching the movie?
Yeah, I had no idea about any of it. The only thing I knew is that the desert, like I visit a lot of family in New Mexico. So like I knew the desert. That's all I could even remotely picture any of this. I had no idea about any of the terminology.
I follow the Mars rover on Twitter, actually, the one that tweets out every once in a while.
If I had Twitter, I'd probably do the same thing.
You shouldn't go on Twitter; it's evil.
Yeah, I remember back when I was in high school, I had the Pathfinder feed up as my background on my laptop. I had it set up as a live webcam that would just be constantly my background.
You had Pathfinder was operating while you were in high school and doing all that?
Yeah.
How old are you, man?
Let's not.
Moving on.
You sound
A
like
good way to
older.
get the discussion.
What the heck?
Yeah, I graduated in '97. It was actually really
Oh, wow.
weird. hearing 97.
Sorry, I'm not like this on the Inking Out Loud podcast too. I'm always the young one, even though I'm the host. I'm also the youngest one all the time.
I think Souls might be
Yeah,
younger
you guys
than
are like, oh, do you have any terminologies? Like, no, this book came out like when I was just out of high school. I had not.
97. I would have been 6 years old.
Oh. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I followed all of the fun Mars rovers. Sojourner made a big impact on me as a child. I used to get these little like mailing letters every so often, and they would have little bits of astrophysics and other related fields on them.
That's so awesome.
Had the biggest crush
like
on
zoo
Will
books,
Wheaton
but
when
for
I was
space.
a kid.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought up
And-
Will Wheaton. I'm
'cause
so
he
glad.
is-
Go ahead.
He did an amazing job narrating this book.
Okay. Audiobook talk, real quick. I read the text. You know, and the majority of my rereads on this book happened while I was welding at work. But yeah, I just for the first time read the Will Wheaton one right here.
For audiobook listeners, you loved it?
Yeah, it was great. He does a really good job. I did read the second read through. I did most of it on Kindle, I just ran out of time to finish it. But he does a fabulous job, and I was in love with him when I was 10.
Gotcha. See this. Okay, a couple of months back, the reason I kind of reacted so
So off topic.
vehemently to this here because on at one point, Danielle, I don't know if you guys know Danielle Fellcandy, our
Of
Inking
course
Out
we
Loud
do.
artist. Yeah, okay. She texted me one day and she said, "Oh my God, Rob, my husband and I were listening to your podcast in the car, and we agreed you sound so much like Will Wheaton." And I was like, "Who?"
You can
You
hear
have a
it.
Canadian accent.
I've never heard of this guy. Who's Will Wheaton? I don't know who this
Oh
is.
my
I've never-
God!
I had to ask her. I was like, "Who the hell is Will Wheaton?" And then
Yeah.
Oh my
I
Lord,
looked
I
him
feel
up.
old.
And I found out he did the audiobook for The Martian, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So like, I'd originally gone through the Martian on audiobook from R.C. Bray, his rendition of it, and I actually have to say I prefer that one. His accents are just a lot better, I think, than Will Wheaton's are. But I did just listen to the Will Wheaton one because I had no idea who the heck that was.
If I were to say "Shut up, Wesley," would you know what I was talking about?
No idea. I could say it if you want. Give me an inflection.
Yeah. Can you just say it?
Shut
I
up,
think it would make
Wesley.
your day.
Shut up, Wesley.
But he never says
Yeah.
that. He is Wesley
Yeah.
in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and everyone says it to him all the time. It's like a running gag.
Gotcha. So it's like something that he's probably sick of hearing at this point.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
I feel that.
He was a child actor, and he didn't necessarily have the happiest relationship with fame originally.
Oh, like Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, a bit.
Not as extreme, maybe.
But that's also something that his character was always being told.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
Probably like Mila Kunis having constantly, "Shut up, Meg."
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
like that.
very much
Yeah.
like that. And now let's go on to more of a thematic point on this one. I was listening to a podcast by Annalie Newitz the other day. Our Opinions Are Correct. Lovely podcast. Shout out. She was talking about the romance genre in science fiction and how it is useful to include elements of romance in the genre. And she brought up the concept of competence porn, how a lot of romance leads are often hyper competent in one field or another, and their significant other respects that competence. And she also brought up The Martian as hyper competence porn because one man is just surviving on the moon. And I was wondering, do you folks like that in your popcorn fiction? Do you like
romance or competence porn?
survival story competence porn? How much of a
Uh,
genre is that your thing?
I don't
I
think
think
it
Andy-
comes. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I think Andy Weir made it a genre with his book.
Yeah.
If it wasn't already, he just did it.
No, it was.
No, it was already a thing.
okay. Yeah.
But it doesn't come around often and is well written. So it's not something I read books like The Martian all the time. Like this
I-
man versus nature kind of thing. I read a lot of, I don't want to say regular, but not that genre.
So yes, it's competence porn, but he is not a love interest in the book. So it's not really romance, if that makes
What-
sense.
I mean, he
I think
does
they mean
at
just, like,
various points have like
self-insert.
a Castaway Wilson style relationship with various pieces of equipment, but you're right.
I think he's being very
Okay.
self-conscious about that, though. That's the point
Well, that's
of it, right?
something I don't want to get into
tongue-in-cheek moment, right?
on our family podcast where I can't even use the F word. Anyway, sorry, Drew.
What's up?
Drew.
You were wasn't
Drew's
Drew
not
talking?
here,
No,
Lurb.
where's
Not-
Drew?
sorry, Rob.
I caught got that one. I had to screw with you just a little bit.
Yeah.
No, seriously. With the, I read a series of books as a kid called. Actually, the first one was called The Hatchet. I think I was about 12 years old by Gary
Yes.
Oh, the
Paulson.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Hatchet.
Hatchet. It was just Hatchet, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
Gary Paulson, and I loved those, but I didn't really come across any other ones until this series. Actually, no, I would say the Illuminate Files wouldn't count though as kind of survival porn, would it? But I would say that this is probably the
Kind of
first
a little
one.
bit.
It's
Like,
got
it
elements
has
of that
elements,
to it,
but not really. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it just got so much else happening. I'm glad to hear you guys have read that, by the way. Heck yeah. But
I think it was
Go ahead.
required reading.
Yes, but it was
I
good
don't like
required
it,
reading.
by the
Yeah,
way.
one of
I
the
don't
few.
like
required
that.
reading by whom? Who required this reading?
For our school
I-
system, a lot of them.
IOL. No, Hatchet was
school
required
system?
in my
The
school
Hatchet was for
system.
me. Yeah.
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 Illuminate Files was required reading because I listened to Inking Out Loud.
Oh,
Yes.
hey, we so much
Yeah.
appreciate that. Heck yeah, thank you guys.
It was required reading because I read the physical copy and the Kindle copy and the audiobook for a podcast. So there. I
I'll give
also
her
had to read
props. The Kindle copy is the absolute worst
Oh my
because I
Yes.
read because Rob said, "Oh, Aiden is one of my favorite characters," so I was like, "All right, I got to give this series a shot." So I got it on
That
the
was a
library
special episode. How do you remember that?
because that was one of the first episodes I think I remember listening to you guys.
Dang.
So I was like, "All right," and then Drew was like, "Yeah, go read it." Oh, it was terrible. The Kindle copy is the worst. I'll say that. No,
It's a
like the
PDF
Kindle
is what it
copy.
is.
But then
Oh,
they
gotcha,
convinced me to
we're
go
getting
get the
off topic.
physical.
And
And
bringing
the
it back to
physical
the
is
Martian.
so good.
Bringing it back to the
This is what
Martian.
happens.
Sorry.
Rob is an
You're
agent
right.
of chaos. He comes in here. He's a catalyst. He just this happens.
Going back to survival books,
Yes.
right around the time I read The Hatchet as a child, we also read My Side of the Mountain, The Far Side of the Mountain, and
Oh, I remember
Lost
those,
on a
yeah.
Mountain in Maine. And so I definitely went through a brief period in my childhood where I read nothing but survival books. I think it was like a month and a half, maybe. But there's definitely a solid fandom for that kind of content. And I was just wondering if
I mean,
people like
would
try and pick one up
zombie
every now and then.
would zombie books count as
See, that's why I'm
survival
asking.
books?
Some of them, yeah.
Oh, no spoiler.
I can cut it.
It's
We'll
it's
cut
fine.
that.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I
I,
think
I think zombie books count as long as you're not with a society of more than like a dozen people.
yeah,
So, what about something like Count of Monte Cristo? Because that has a certain survival element in
Can't
but
it.
say
that's
I've
not
read.
against nature. That's against a group of people.
I mean, the whole, well, anyway, whatever.
I want to
No,
hear
no,
about
fight for
people
it.
who have
Fight
to
for
like.
it. I want to hear you fight for it. You give up too easily.
Because the whole part where he's digging his way out of the castle diff,
Yeah,
and then he has to make it to, like, that section of the book is definitely survival.
and if that was it, I would say yeah. Or if that was like 2 books and that was the first one, I would say yes. But I don't think because his goal besides just surviving is to get revenge. So I would
Yeah,
say
I
no.
know. But, and
Like how long is that section that he has to live in the woods?
he's
Proportionally to the rest
All
of
right,
the book.
Pippin, so you
No,
guys
when
talking
he's
about classifying the book as a whole, eh?
the
Yeah.
digging.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Like, it has a section that has that element where he's digging himself out of the castle, and then he sews himself up in the canvas that his dead buddy was in, and then he gets tossed into the ocean. But that's like years that he's in the castle. But you're right. I am wrong.
How much of the book does it take up?
It'd be like
Too
Well,
much.
I haven't read. So I'm
Honestly,
just-
too much.
It's-
But it's a great book, and you should read it.
I'd say probably half the book.
Oh well, that's it. That
About-
qualifies.
about
I'm a
half,
flirt
yeah.
then.
I wouldn't count the portion where he's digging though necessarily, unless he's like surviving on.
I thought it was like a
mushrooms in the
Shawshank thing where
brambles.
it's just like,
No,
Like-
gotcha,
it
okay.
is actually. It would not be
A little
surprised if
bit, yeah.
Shawshank
Oh,
Yeah, a lot of that's
was
kind of in it.
inspired by that section of the book. Yeah.
hmm
Okay, got you,
So,
got you.
He does make it out. Spoilers for a book that was written many, many years ago. If you haven't read it or seen the movie.
Yeah, no,
I'm very
because
sorry.
No, you're
until he's
good.
like surviving in the wilderness, that's not a survival story. It's
Yeah.
a prison break story.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
it's both in one. I really got to read this then.
It's
Yeah,
very
I think
long.
you would like it. Also from a
But it's
literary
very good.
standpoint, from how it impacts.
You know what I'm
Well,
gonna
it's
do? I'm
the-
gonna open the
No.
Inking Out Loud spreadsheet and add it right now. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right.
Drew loves it, by the way.
Oh, does he? Okay, then it's already done too. Count it as done then.
I don't know if you guys want to do it. It's pretty long.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? We've done Oathbringer. We've done Rhythm of War. Granted, those are split into 5
It
parts,
doesn't
but
fit in the, it doesn't fit in the genre though. It's not
Okay.
sci-fi.
Oh, I thought you meant based on the length.
No,
Oh, okay. I
Oh.
was totally misunderstanding that.
no.
Might be. I got you.
But you should read it. It's good.
I will.
Does anybody have any particular survival skills that they would be able to bring to bear in an
Listen.
emergency situation?
I am a welder. I've got about 20,000 hours of production MIG welding experience, so I could probably bring that in terms of like apocalypse survival skills. Like I would be like
Okay.
I'd be like useful to a band of nomads, or at least like a base. Like, oh, you got welding skills? Okay, we need you. You come in
Yeah.
here. How many family members you got with you? Right?
He's on the
3?
team.
I'm on the team. That's me.
You're on
Yeah.
the team.
He's
Yeah.
on the team.
You're definitely on the post-apocalypse team.
My
What do you
survival
got?
skill would be feeding other people because I would die.
Okay, so your food. All right. So we got the welder. We got our food source.
Got it.
Kip, what are you?
Oh, geez. I'm good at cell culture. Trying to think of a world in which that would still be an applicable skill.
Dang.
I can grow the
Diagnosing
yeast
illnesses?
vats
Maybe?
in like a space station that had had
What are you
like,
talking
an
about? You're the
impact or
most valuable
something.
member. You can produce alcohol.
Yeah, you have a fairly good
You are
grasp
one of the
on.
most valuable people.
I can
Yeah.
make alcohol. Yep, I
Yeah.
can.
Okay. I guess I'll just scout, or I'll be the comic relief. I don't know. I'll probably die with her, and then you could eat me. I'll be the second meal. That's
Here's a
fine.
question.
Because you'll need
There
dessert.
we
Here's a
go.
question. Would you want to taste good? Or would you want, like, if someone's gonna eat you, would you
I mean,
want to taste good?
I would-
Yeah.
Depends
You know
who's
what? I
eating me.
would.
Yeah.
Or it's
I
like,
definitely
Yeah.
would.
I don't, or like screw who's eating me. I just want to taste like a gristly, nasty mess.
No, I think I want to taste good because I want people to like
You're right.
enjoy
If
what I gave
you're
back to the
right,
world.
you're right. If it's like my best friends, or if it's like some of my crewmates,
Yeah.
exactly. I want them to be like, Rob's like a
If they
fish
had
filet
to eat
mignon.
me, I know they had to sink so low. I
I've
want to at
had
least
more.
provide them with some. We won't go into it, but
What'd you
yeah,
have for
what
dinner?
do you taste good? Yeah,
I had a
tastes
bit
I
of
have had
cheese.
more conversations about cannibalism since starting this podcast that I've ever had in my entire life because I think
Oh.
this is at least the third.
Speaking
I
of
have such a
cannibalism,
weird diet. I've got to believe that I would taste weird.
what do you mean weird diet? I'm on keto myself, so
No,
that's why
oh
you,
geez.
Okay.
what's up?
Let's not get. We're not going to get
Crazy.
into Kip's dietary
Yeah,
habits.
we'll save that one
Eat
for a
Just
different.
not.
carbs and dairy only, so I don't know. Maybe my liver's like foie gras. Who knows?
Well, speaking of cannibalism, which is one of my favorite non sequiturs, by the way, with Johansson, that's something they actually, there's a few things they actually cut
Yeah.
about
Yes.
we
Oh,
can actually go into the movie at
Yeah.
this point if
It's
you guys
great.
want to.
Okay.
But they did cut a few things for graphic content, for swearing, of course. But one of the things, of course, they chose to cut was this plan for, potential cannibalism among the Ares 3 crew. Ares 3, the Hermes
Right.
3.
The
Yeah,
Hermes
Hermes
crew.
They
crew.
Yeah.
didn't.
Sorry, Ares 3 Hermes. There we go.
Yes. Well, I like that they went that far into their planning that they're like, this is what we're gonna do because we have backup plans for backup plans.
That's what makes it
And
feel
I'm the
real.
one who's
Yeah.
gonna be the cannibalist because I'm gonna make it home no matter what.
Yep.
And I thought that
And,
was really
like,
cool
And it's
If the probe doesn't make it, the rest of them will all commit suicide immediately.
because it's the best chance, and I
Yep.
think that's pretty cool.
And the fact that it's based on her being physically the smallest, therefore requiring the smallest caloric content, and
Yeah.
her having to explain that to one of her parents is just,
That was a
oh
brutal.
my
Yeah.
god. And speaking of explaining to their parents, I want to draw aside to this scene where Mark Watney gets this letter from his mom, and he has to say to the reader, like, look, all right, I got a letter from my mom, okay? I'm not a baby, but this really hit me. This hurt. And it was like, oh, I'm putting myself in those shoes. I'm on Mars and I'm getting a letter from my mom and I'm right there with him. It's so heart-wrenching.
And it really said a lot about NASA as an institution that when they found out that Mark was still alive, the first thing the director did was fly to Chicago to tell Mark's parents in person.
Yeah.
And it was Teddy Sanders himself that did it. That's
Yep.
like, that's why I love Teddy. He's such a jerk he comes across as such a jerk, but he's honestly one of my favorite characters in this entire book.
There's a lot
I-
of jerks in the NASA staff.
Yeah, you're right. They all
I
have their
don't think-
moments. I think
I don't.
pretty much every single one has their moments. I like that.
I don't think Teddy's a jerk. I think he
He-
just has a different set of priorities. And I understand where Mitch is coming from when he calls Teddy a coward, because in a way he is being a coward. But what he's thinking is we need to get this piece of equipment back that we have 3 more missions to fly with. And we can't,
And the 5
it's a-
people on it.
and the 5 people on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And for him, it's a cost risk analysis.
Yeah.
But
Sorry,
I understand
go
where
ahead.
Mitch is coming from, but what I do think I I absolutely think what he did wrong was not tell the crew. I don't care. That was so completely unjustified that they didn't
Yep.
know that
Yep.
Mark was alive for months.
It makes sense. Like, I'm not saying to not tell the crew, 'cause I would want the crew to be told as well, but you have the director who's really about minimizing all this risk, and then you have the actual, like, Mitch and everybody who's their goal is, yeah, minimize the risk, but still accomplish the goal.
Yeah.
So Teddy's like, "No, no, no. We're cutting everything free. Send them back. We lost one guy. Sorry." So I see where they're both coming from, and I like that they stick with them for the most part. They stick to their main
Yeah.
personalities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Like, sorry, go ahead.
like, how would this book be different if they risked all of this and then the entire Hermes and Mark died?
Yeah,
I
Like,
mean, that's a legitimate consideration.
it would impact their funding
Exactly. Yeah.
for because they already
like,
have 4 planned, but they may not get a 5th and a 6th like Vincent was trying to get them.
Yeah.
and then
That's the
like,
distinction.
imagine if that had been the book that was published. Do you think it would have received such widespread appeal?
Of course not. I don't think anybody would publish a book where there's so much investment happening at this point and then just to end it like that.
Well, I can think of one or two authors who would, but
Yeah.
Okay. All
And
right.
there's some
Should we
people
start?
who
Sorry, go ahead.
just like shoving pencils in their eyes for fun. Not
Ah,
me. I like a happy ending. But I'm just saying. There are people who like that.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like in the book, Teddy was there was a moment in the book where I decided, oh, I actually like this guy because he was absolutely arguing sense. I mean, Mitch Henderson is thinking about Hermes 3 and the crew of Hermes 3. Teddy Sanders is thinking about humankind's future of space travel. That
Yeah.
that is his priority, and so you
Yeah.
can see where these conflicts arise. Uh,
Yeah.
but with Teddy, a moment where I decided Teddy himself is still human, and I actually like Teddy. I mean, there's all these other cues. There's actually a lot of cues for these little human traits that these side characters have. Teddy himself is
oh
constantly
yeah,
wearing the edges of his folder on the sides of on the corners of his desk and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Mindy Park is oh sorry not Mindy Park. Beth Johansson is a morning person, and she actually is really chipper at nighttime. Later in the book, we don't even get that explained. It's really cool. But with Mitch Henderson and with Teddy Sanders, he's thinking about the future of space travel. And the moment where I decided Teddy Sanders, though himself is still human, and I actually like him, was when Venkat Kapoor was still trying to tell him, oh no, I think it actually still was Mitch trying to say, listen, it's my call. We have a saving plan to get him now.
Yeah.
And then completely out of nowhere, Teddy goes, all right, go ahead, tell him. And it just completely disarms Mitch Henderson. He's like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
Teddy decided to still bring it up as if he was going to combat that idea.
Yeah.
He just that moment of 180-degree pivot felt so organically human in that context that it was just gold. And a lot of these characters, despite the fact that they may not be entirely fleshed out, they still feel organic. They still feel entirely human. And I think that goes to speak to Andy Weir's just ability with his characters.
For the amount of
The,
page count, I would say, yeah,
the
definitely.
sketches that are there are good. They're good starts on characterization. They're definitely strong moves for as to be as character efficient and word efficient as you can be.
Did you
Uh,
guys read any of the extended stuff? Like
the
uh
interviews and stuff at the
yeah,
end.
or the interviews, the additional short fiction that Andy Weir put forward with the release of the movie. I can't remember the name of it. There's another short story where Mark Watney meets up with Lewis, and they actually have that beer together, and they
Oh,
talk
okay.
about.
I don't
No, I
think I
didn't
read
know.
that. No,
No,
No.
okay, those
no.
exist. They're in the audiobook if you want to check them out. I don't know if they're
Okay.
on
Okay.
in text yet, but I there's like 3 little pieces that Weir published, as just like short fiction after the fact to give more context, and
Okay.
they're awesome.
Cool.
I don't
Yeah,
think it was in my copy.
I'll get you the name right here. I actually have it written down right here. The name is Diary of an Ass Can.
Okay.
That's the short story where I think that's a short story where Watney meets up with Lewis and they have that beer together.
Okay.
Getting back to side characters. Do you think that one of the points in The Martian was that NASA is kind of a little bit of a home for these weirdos and these nerds who all have maybe not the best social skills, but a whole bunch of engineering feats?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember
Richard Purnell
Tim?
is it?
Yeah, Rich Purnell,
Yep.
obviously. He's
Oh,
like on.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Oh
you can
yeah.
you tell me when I'm awkward? He tells people that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was
That's
that
awkward, Rich.
that was
Yeah.
some work at neurodivergent representation.
Yeah. I like Tim, who's just like this guy that they tolerate. You know, I didn't like him, obviously. He only has a couple lines, but just they throw a bunch of those little characters in there. That
Yeah, yeah.
And
These,
the dialogue between the Chinese director and Teddy
I
right, or the lack thereof.
that is a
about
great
Mitch.
scene. Yeah, about Mitch. Yes. Yeah, you can say that, but I can't. Or no, yeah, yeah. But it's
Yeah, you can say
this
that.
is
I can't.
yeah.
There's so many golden moments like that. These little moments of raw humanity and just golden humanity are just sprinkled just generously throughout this. Andy Weir's really got a talent.
Yeah. And then maybe the most controversial piece of comedy in the whole book. Do you think there were too many jokes about disco?
Yes. But I, okay, so I was gonna actually compare this to Ready Player One, specifically about the disco, because I feel like this is making fun of it, whereas the other Ready Player One was embracing it. So I feel like this is a little bit different, and they didn't do it as much. I wish they had done maybe 2 or 3 jokes less, but I feel like it pays off better in the movie than it does in
Yeah.
the book.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's because the movie had to cut some.
Do you think it would have worked better if it was more than just disco as the punchline?
Happy Days was also kind of the punchline in the book a little more than the
Yeah.
movie, but
And
Yeah.
there's Three's Company. There's a bunch of little,
Yep.
that era. I feel like they could have
I
made a little bit more variety for that, I guess, that decade that they were trying to
but
encapsulate.
if when the lack of variety is the joke, I
Yeah.
don't think they
Yeah.
could have.
But I feel like maybe mention some disco band names at that point, not just
He did. He was
disco.
Yeah,
talking about.
Yeah,
he did.
I went through and the least disco one was
just a
this, but
couple
he went
more.
through the Bee
Just a,
Gees. He went. Oh, okay. There's a little more then.
just a little
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. Actually think I agree. Yeah. Like I think like yeah, you're right. In the book, the movie handled it perfectly because they had to cut, so by necessity it wasn't
Yeah,
overdone. In the book,
exactly.
I would have lowered it by about 30%. Yeah, and
Okay.
just with the disco,
I
Mhm.
yeah.
wouldn't have. I thought it was fine. And you guys are wrong.
Since we're
So
in
Okay.
That's fair.
since we're really opening up movie talk,
I was just gonna say,
Are we
go back to the
jumping
movie.
into it?
Yeah, we might as well.
Okay.
let's jump fully into it, and let's do it in a positive fashion. What do you think worked better in the movie than the book?
So for me, I think this is probably a personal thing, but for me, like when they start spitting out like long sentences about coding and long sentences about this or that, where they just showed it in the movie, it made it a lot easier to deal with for me because they started doing all those numbers and slashes and hashtags, and I'm like, I don't even know anymore. Can we just get
Hashtags?
to
Really? There's some hashtags?
there's no hashtags, but you know what I mean.
Any symbol that's not a letter is a hashtag to her.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
what kind of letter though? We talking Greek?
ASCII.
There you go. Hey,
There was-
I'm with her there
yeah,
on,
when
on
they
the hexadecimal. Hexadecimal and ASCII. What is going on here?
Yeah.
yeah,
It's tough.
and it's just like so you get to see it, and it moves it along a little bit. Sometimes I think Andy Weir is a little bit too detailed in his science and his
I
whatnot.
agree.
Imagine if he'd given us all of the Morse code messages first in Morse code and then parenthetically in English.
How would that be done in the audiobook going?
That is what I'm talking
You
about.
could have hired a Morse code operator to do those portions.
Yeah, you could have actually done
Interestingly,
it.
there's a lot of tackling that in Project Hail Mary, where the audiobook narrator has to take some artistic liberties, or at least the producers have to take some artistic liberties in translation. Yeah.
Or you get that Brandon Sanderson epigraph, which is just the numbers, right?
Oh,
There you
geez,
go, and then
110,
that's Michael
0.
Kramer for a minute and a half going 114167444.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The movie was like, without a doubt in my mind. Admittedly, I only gave this 5 minutes of thought before moving on, but I think it's the greatest book to film adaptation I've actually ever seen. Like, and I am one of those purists. I am one of those guys who wants the movie. I want to follow the book as closely as can be followed, if still allowing it to be digestible in another format. I typically hate changes, even the ones that I end up agreeing need to be made. I still don't like. So The Martian for me is like perfect in that regard. It's preserving as much as possible. It's not taking too many creative artistic liberties, and it's only cutting the parts that I feel need to be cut, like the math, for example, the
Yeah.
geometry and the math and the navigating. I was okay, miss me with that. I'm done with that. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, the movie was Ridley Scott fantastic. It's directed by Ridley Scott. I'm a big film guy. I went to
Yes.
school for film. Matt Damon is a gem as Mark Watney, and there
Uh,
are a few actors and actresses in Hollywood that are just like weirdly good at otherwise mundane things. Like Tom Cruise, for example, running. Tom Cruise is
Oh,
the best at
jeez.
running. You know Tom Cruise when you see him running. Bruce Willis.
um,
He's the best. Bruce Willis, if you've seen Pulp Fiction, he's the master at sitting down silently, ominously listening to someone else talk. And Matt Damon, I repeat, Matt Damon, no one matches Matt Damon in munching on snacks and talking at a webcam with as much charisma and charm as Matt Damon. Mars will come to fear my botany powers. Just gold. It was
I
a
feel like
fantastic movie.
Oh,
not
sorry.
for The Martian, but Brad Pitt could give munching on snacks a go with Matt Damon.
What are we thinking of? Where is he munching on
Well,
snacks?
there's a good reason they're buddies.
In Ocean's 11, he's okay. Oh, hey, okay, yeah,
He
yeah,
does
yeah,
a
yeah,
great
yeah.
job. I could totally, but not for The Martian, but for munching on snacks, yes.
Got you,
But
got you.
The Martian, like besides Matt Damon, because I agree, fantastic. I really enjoyed the rest, like Jeff Daniels, incredible job as
Oh
Teddy.
my God, Jeff Daniels was, I think, the best part of that
Oh,
movie. Even though Matt Damon is just in there so much, Jeff Daniels, I think, was the best cast.
I don't know. I
Daniels
think
is
Sean
great.
Bean may have been a little better.
But they made Sean Bean talk about Lord of the Rings. I mean, come on.
Yes, Project Elrond. It
Amazing.
was
I actually
incredible.
thought that was really funny.
Because it's a secret meeting.
I
It's
laughed
good.
I wonder
so
how many
hard
so
at
people
that
good.
in
part.
the theater. There must have been in the theater about 12% of the people that went.
So
I feel
I
like
was
it
one
could
of
be
them.
more. Could
I
be
was
more.
one of them.
Yeah, could
Same.
be more.
So
I had forgotten Sebastian Stan was in this movie, honestly.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
I don't
This
know
is
who
a
that is.
star-studded cast. There are a lot of people. And people that I didn't think would work, like Kristen Wiig as Annie
Kristen Wiig,
Montrose. I
yes.
did not think, I was like, I feel like she's a little too comedic for this role, but she pulls it off. She nails it. She's not too
She's
crazy.
actually not as foul-mouthed in. Well, of course, she can't be. We're trying to
Yeah,
target a slightly
yeah, they
younger
did.
audience here, or at least a more open and broader audience. So
Mhm.
yeah, doesn't surprise me about Kristen Wiig being able to nail Annie like that. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And she
Benedict
gets an
Wong.
extra scene in the extended edition too.
Oh, she does? Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
She gets an extra bit of dialogue talking about language used in press releases. Like, don't say
Yeah.
we're gonna bring him home safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really in the I think it was her in the book that said don't say phrases like bring him home safe because she's the director of media relations. But I
Yeah.
think in the movie it was Teddy Sanders that said that. I think it was Jeff Daniels that went,
Yes.
don't say that.
it was.
But
Yep.
I was gonna say something else about changing between the movie.
In
Sorry,
the
go ahead.
extended edition, she has
I
that
wanted to
scene
go back
before
to
him.
Matt Damon for a second.
Yeah. Matt Damon.
Okay, sure.
So when he is digging out the piece of antenna from his side, he does that. He's sweating. He's pale. It's so well done. Like he does.
And it's in like the
brilliant
first
things.
like 10 minutes.
I know.
Yeah,
But the
that's
point
what
is that
occurred to me in this
like
watch. I was like,
I believed that he was actually doing that, and also
Yeah.
I mean it was almost it was about the same as when Bruce Willis is digging glass out of his feet in Die Hard. Like it
Oh,
just
jeez.
kind of
gotta throw a little bit of John McClane in there.
No, but I mean that scene it did
I
the
get
same
you.
thing to me.
They did so
So,
good on the makeup too. He looks so pale in that scene, Matt Damon, when he's like
Oh, yeah.
sweating and he's
It
just
did.
And I'm
pale and
wondering
he's
how much
hyperventilating.
That's
Blood
the
loss.
first, the first scene
weight
on
loss.
Mars
Yeah.
once they left it was a 5-minute scene because I remember timing it because I was doing something and I stopped it exactly when he's pulling out the antenna. He says the word we're not going to say here is the first word on Mars after everybody left him. And
Yep.
it's just his emotion was incredible. Like he did all this work and it's just like, okay, now what's he going to do? And it's a good, I guess it sets the tone for the rest of the movie that this is now man on his own. Here you go.
Man vs. World.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Matt Damon himself just delivering a perfectly organic, I should say delivering a delivery. It's kind of redundant, but when he's shoveling in, he's just carrying all that Martian soil in. There's this moment where I think I watched it yesterday. I must have giggled like a like an idiot for like 3 straight minutes when he was sipping on that grape juice and he was just pounding it as he was sweating. And as he pounded the entire thing, so he was actually out of breath as he put it down too. And he was like, "F you, Mars." It was like, just I
Yeah.
giggled like a teenager, like I haven't since I was 15 watching that.
And
So
like actually drinking something on screen is
Yeah,
something
that
that
was a
doesn't happen
full
that often.
pound. That was like a
Like,
straight 250 mils. They could not have done more than 4 or 5 takes of that unless he would have had to leave several times.
Mhm.
so oh geez, what was okay.
You were
So
on
this
Matt
is a thing that
Damon.
was very
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm moving away.
Oh, you're past Matt. Okay,
I'm
go ahead. Past Matt
Okay,
Damon.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
yeah,
fine.
I'm moving on. Uh so a weird thing that I experienced is for me, the book felt much more claustrophobic than the movie. And I think that that's because you're living inside Mark's head. And so I felt like I was inside the spacesuit more. I felt like I was stuck inside. I couldn't go out without. Whereas in the movie, they're beautiful, they're wonderful shots, but you have these huge open expanses that you see. You don't see them. You see Mark in his spacesuit in the book. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
don't
I think
know if
that's an advantage of the film format because to get that sort of eye, that first
I
person from
like the
like a film point
claustrophobia
of view,
though.
you'd have to be like in first person, literally with the camera shaking around from his eyes, which we never
No,
Yeah.
no,
quite
no,
got.
no. What I'm saying is I prefer the claustrophobia because that's what it
Oh
would
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
For a book set on Mars, there was a surprising lack of any description of the landscape.
Yeah.
I think everyone's seen
That's
it
fair.
enough. I think Weir's yeah, you can only describe it once and you can't describe it again. It's the same
Yeah,
description.
Mhm.
it's a red desert. There's rocks.
I'm not a fan of the claustrophobia. So actually in the book, it throws me off because you get a scene where Lewis even asks Martinez, "Where are you sleeping?" And he's like, "I'm sleeping in the
Oh,
airlock because I don't want to be in
oh,
anyone's way." And I'm like, "All right, well that's terrifying, first of all."
yep.
And I'm glad that they're like they fixed that. Um, but
Yeah,
then you watch the movie and you see just because they're trying to make it a space movie and they're not trying to make people feel claustrophobic watching the movie, you get this huge workout room, these massive hallways in the Hermes. It is just a gigantic sci-fi space
huge
station,
aircraft.
basically.
Yeah,
And
You know
I'm
what?
like, that's not claustrophobic at all. I'm like, I appreciate that, even though it's not as realistic as the book, even though that's not,
I kind of want to
you know.
justify that a little bit because
Okay.
the
What do
Hermes
you
is
got?
so massive. It's so huge in the movie. It feels far bigger in the movie than it does in the books. And in the books, I had one tiny scientific problem myself, and I
Okay.
was just like, I didn't quite believe that we could produce enough reverse thrust by breaching the vehicular airlock. Once
Yeah.
Hermes was like, Houston, be advised, we're going to breach the VAL to produce reverse thrust, and I was like,
yep.
well, you're venting one atmosphere, though. How much are you really going to slow down that ship when it weighs hundreds of thousands of tons? That didn't really
Right.
seem like, especially the magnitude. I think they slowed it from like 42 meters per second to 10 meters per second. They
Yeah,
they
it was
slowed
down to
it
like, yeah, a
That's
good 30
relative
meters.
velocity, though. That was
relative
relative velocity.
relative to Mark. Okay, so that depends on what
Yes,
Mark is doing as they also. Okay.
yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
I get you. It's just it seemed like it slowed it down too much. But in the movie, when it's that huge, granted it would add more mass, but more volume
Right.
would also give you more atmosphere to do that. I don't know. I was like dipping in there. But like I said, I've been studying chemistry and biology. I haven't been studying physics lately, so I don't know.
It's all magic to me and I'm fine with it. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I get that.
I think it's not inconceivable, but what I did think it was inconceivable was that for something to have that large a rotating section that it was generating that much
Yeah, like yeah.
gravitational force, that there wouldn't be enough room for 5 people to sleep
So
without using an airlock. Like that seemed weird to me.
Okay. I
I
mean, I
don't
could
know.
see that. You
Here is one thing that I would actually like to be addressed by the book or not by the
Ooh,
movie,
go
wouldn't
ahead.
matter
Go
in the
ahead.
movie, is the part of the issue with being in 0G or low G is that we start to lose bone density very, very fast. And it doesn't feel like that's really addressed by the book because it seems
Losing
like
what now? Sorry.
bone
bone
density.
density.
Oh, okay, got you.
And they stay an extra what? They said total 900 days in
Yeah, I was
space
like, are they
because the
even going to be
Hermes
able to
crew.
walk when they get home?
It wasn't an extra 900 days. It was an extra it was an
Extra
extra
No,
year and
550
a bit.
something.
But
I
Yeah,
still,
think it was
total.
540,
and a half.
550
Yeah.
something extra. Yeah.
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 Because
So
Mark on Mars, would that affect as much as
I don't think
because
so,
low
but
gravity? But then the crew of the Hermes, they actually basically went back to Earth and then went back again, and then now they're going back. So
But
they did 2
again,
round trips.
both of those have gravity, not zero gravity. They
Yeah,
just
they're
have
in
Okay.
low
low
would it be
G.
gravity.
Yeah,
enough
yeah. They're
gravity?
Low. Okay.
I'm
And
just
that is
saying.
undiscovered country, but we do know that humans can exist in low gravity for over a year without
Okay.
Okay.
irretrievable
Adverse
loss.
effects. Gotcha.
I'm
Well,
just saying.
there's
yeah.
adverse effects, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
It takes weeks of physiotherapy back on Earth to get back to where you were, but it's still possible. Yeah.
months and
Mhm.
years. Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
wow, didn't think it was that long.
Yeah.
See, but that's something that I felt like should have been addressed. If as long as we're addressing all the other
Well,
stuff that the book
well,
addresses.
the book
Yeah.
ends when they return to the Hermes. That is the end of the book.
Yes.
So we wouldn't have seen anything on Earth.
But it wasn't even brought up in the
Well,
discussion.
Beck says
Sure.
Then
his blood pressure
I'm
is like
just
91
saying,
over 50, which is lower than I
They
expect, or
they
lower than I
do bring
want,
it
but
up
it's expected.
occasionally, but not much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think Beck brings it up with his blood pressure being on Mars for that long, and it's lower than I would like, but it's still within tolerance. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
I will
Yeah.
say, since we're on the talk of the ending, I like the movie ending because I love a good montage, and that was a great montage to the end, and it was just so nice to see.
Oh, I love that little
It
that
was
little seedling
beautiful.
under his feet when he reaches down. He's like, "Hey
Oh,
there."
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that full circle was just mwah, chef's kiss.
Plus the movie is just so beautifully shot. The way they do the gravity, like when they're switching tunnels going from one
There were a
place where
couple
there's
of awkward
gravity to
gravity
another.
shots I didn't understand though. Like,
I
I don't know. There's this one where
I don't know.
Captain Lewis was like going backwards through a tube, and it kind of like sucked her in. And I was like, "What? What? Hold on!"
She's
But she
going
had too
towards
much
the
lateral
ground.
movement for that. Is there like a difference in atmosphere pressure there? Like, what's going on?
I think they were trying to show swapping to a different side from where the
Yes,
gravities were
that's what
spinning.
I got. Yeah.
They're trying
Okay,
to show that she's now going over there, and they were trying.
She
It was a
was
little awkwardly done, but I think that's what they were trying to show.
like
okay,
up
okay.
was switching to down because she was
Yeah,
going towards one
switching.
side
Yeah,
of
I
the
got
wheel.
okay. All right.
Coriolis
I
force
don't
is
know.
weird.
Hmm?
What's
Eh.
weird?
Coriolis force is weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like also like the movement that it makes in like if you pour a liquid in something with a strong Coriolis force, it's weird looking.
I've got a new YouTube search after this.
Yeah, we have
The
science
Expanse did it
homework from
once,
Kip.
which was fun.
You guys talked a
Uh,
lot about the Expanse on that episode on soft magic and hard magic, and I'm gonna have to check out the Expanse now.
the
Uh,
Expanse is a lot of fun.
actually, I think you'll be happy to know this. Andy Weir actually got with James S. A. Corey, the duo that wrote. I believe they even put Mark Watney is actually in the Expanse as like one line is in one of the books. I think it's like third or fourth book. Kip, do you remember which one?
I don't remember the book, but I do remember
They
his.
actually
Oh,
mention
Yeah.
Mark Watney, so this book is actually connected just slightly to the Expanse series because they're big fans. So they dropped that line mentioning Mark Watney's something or other.
Yep.
Yeah,
oh, see, I was like,
yeah.
I've just gone through Project Hail Mary, and I was so expecting. There was one moment where it would have been perfect to add one specific little offhand reference to Mark Watney, and I was waiting for it, and it never came. And I was like, oh, I felt let down.
I mean, Project Hail Mary's protagonist is Mark Watney reincarnated, so
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Okay,
But
I
he did
mean,
it well. He did it well, I think, to where I liked it. We'll save that for another day.
another day.
okay. Anyone have any last thoughts before we want to start wrapping up?
Not particularly. I do want to say I want to just thank you guys for hosting me here. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. You guys have taken what's been like a slightly intimidating thing normally appearing on someone else's podcast. You guys have turned it into something that was just very relaxed, very refreshing, very casual. So it was a lot of fun. I look forward to a lot of our future conversations on our various discords.
Yes.
All right.
Always
Yeah.
fun.
I want to add that I just love the whole subplot where he's a pirate because when he's in the had,
Yes.
Yes, and the
but when he
movie nailed it.
leaves, he's in. Yes, it was so great. It was so funny, and oh, we're using maritime law now to do. I'm a pirate.
I mean,
I just
Mark Watney knows that he just made Wikipedia. Like,
right,
in
Yeah.
another way,
100%.
it's like, how many ways can I be the first to do something?
exactly.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Mark, yeah, especially with I mean, so many lines in the movie were
Yeah.
lifted directly from the book. There were lines again and again and again that you recognize from the book, and that was definitely one of them. And there was this moment where Mindy Park about this exact line about him being a space pirate. Mindy Parker was like, "Oh yeah, no, he explained it to us." It was just
It's like, yep,
yeah, that
yeah,
was
we know.
fantastic.
Yes,
Mackenzie
yes.
Davis, her delivery is just great.
There's
and
one
So
scene from the
speaking
movie.
of,
Yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. Speaking of adaptations, Pride and Prejudice, the BBC one with Colin Firth, is the best adaptation I've ever seen.
Oh,
Better
that's
than
your
this.
entry. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so there's Stardust is actually one of my favorite adaptations that
It
I
is
actually
also
like
very
better
good.
than the book. So I'll say that. I'll leave that as my recommendation for for a movie, a quick movie. Yep, she's shaking her head because she hates it. I love it. Yeah.
I did
Um, yeah. No, those are my
okay.
final thoughts. We talked about The Martian a lot. We hit all the points I wanted that I put in my head to remember to talk about, so I'm good. Great book and movie. I will continue to watch the movie just because it's easier to do 2.5 hours than it is to read the book, but occasionally I will start reading the book a little bit more often.
And it's gorgeous. Like,
It's
it
so
is.
nice.
so gorgeous. Okay, well, this concludes our episode. You can find us on the Legendarium Discord. The invite link is on thelegendarium.com. We're also on Twitter at Green Team Pod and Reddit. Join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Thanks for Horizon Brave for starting it all. Thank you, Craig, for loaning us this little corner of your media empire.
Yes. Thank you, Craig.
And thank you, our panelists. Guys, it was wonderful talking to y'all.
Thank you, Rob, for coming on. We
Hey, thank
appreciate
you
it.
guys for having
you,
me.
Rob.
Special guest host. Okay, our music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye. Or
Guys,
Morty,
I think I'm having
maybe.
some mic troubles, just so you know.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. I'm not lighting up green with my obnoxious laughing like I usually do.
Okay. Maybe just a little quieter than normal. No big deal.
Uh,
I could be
okay.
loud enough for two if that's what you want.